Okay, so we're going to look here at non-calculator paper 3 for level 2. Um, and a lot of people find it tricky to navigate a level 2 non-calculator paper in the 25-minute time that they give you. It's really just about careful reading at a reasonable pace. Of course, making sure your times tables are good, your dividing skills are good, but really just about careful reading and not panicking. So on this first question, we've got Kate is making some pastry. She will use 20 ounces of flour. Recipe uses 8 ounces of flour with 3 ounces of butter. So, looking at this question, what do we associate with what? Where do we start? Well, it refers to 20 ounces of flour, and then it refers to 8 ounces of flour here. So, in terms of the link, we need to be linking the two sets of figures for flour. And we're comparing 20 to 8. Um, and if we're comparing 20 to 8, so I can write that in a ratio sort of style. But really what I'm thinking about here is 20 divided by 8. So I'm thinking what is 20 compared to 8, or what is 8 compared to 20? Well, if we think about what happens with 8, 8 plus 8, of course, makes 16, or 2 times 8 makes 16. And 20 take away 16 leaves you with 4. And 4 is, of course, half of 8. So, really, the relationship between 20 and 8 that they want you to pick up on is, well, if 2 8s are 16, and 20 take away 16 is 4, which is half of 8, then that means 20 divided by 8 is 2.5. Because 2.5 times 8 makes 20, because 2 8s are 16, half of 8 is 4, 16 plus 4 makes 20. So that's what they're really wanting you to pick up on there. So this means that 20 ounces of flour is 2.5 times more than 8 ounces of flour. That's the thing here that they're hoping that you're going to realize. So this means she'll need 2.5 times as much butter. So 2.5 times 3. Well, if 2 threes are 6, and half of 3 is 1.5, put that together, and that's going to make 7.5 ounces of butter. So 7.5 ounces would be your answer. Next question, work out the value of 4x plus 3 when x equals 2. So this bit here, so bear in mind 4x means 4 multiplied by whatever x is, and they tell us that x equals 2. So you're going to need to do 4 times 2 is 8. So if 4x is equal to 8, then 8 plus 3 is 11. Next question, a equals 5, and then we've got this lovely symbol here, which of course, remember, is the symbol for square root. So a equals 5 square root b. So because the square root symbol is next to the b, it's attached to the b-let. So what it's asking you to do is 5. And then because the 5 is next to square root b, it means 5 times the square root of b. So doing our BIDMAS, we need to do the square root before we do the multiplying, because square root, of course, comes under indices. So if b equals 16, the square root of 16, so we need to think about what number, when you times it by itself, gives you 16, which of course is 4. 4 fours make 16. So the question is actually asking us to do 5 times 4, because 4 is the square root of 16. And that is 20. So 20 would be our answer there. Work out 5/8 of 320. Oh no, without the calculator, I hear you crying internally. So, first of all, let's find 1/8 by doing 320 divided by 8. So 8 into 3 doesn't go. 8 into 32 goes 4 times. And then we're left with the 0. So that means 1/8 of 320 is 40. So therefore 5/8 of 320 is going to be 40 times 5. And that is going to give you 200. So there's no need for a calculator there, of course, as long as your times tables are reasonable. Next, we've got written ratio we can see, but it also relates to fractions, this question. So in 1 week, she sells earrings, bracelets, and necklaces in the ratio 13 to 24 to 15. So remember, the order of the numbers is the same as the order of the words. So earrings relates to the 13, bracelets relates to the 24, and necklaces relates to the 15. So our ratio is 13 parts earrings, 24 parts bracelets, 15 parts necklaces. What fraction of the total items sold were bracelets? Well, so if we add those numbers together, so that gives us 37, 42, 52. So there's 52 items altogether. And out of 52 items, 24 out of the 52 are bracelets. So the fraction here is 24 over 52. But we don't just write 24 over 52 because it wants to know it in its simplest form. So we've got to simplify this fraction. So if we can identify what's the biggest number that goes into both, and if you can't do that, really, because they're both even numbers, just halve them. So that's going to go to 12 over 26. And then if we do that again, divide them both by 2, that's going to give us 6 over 13. And once we see that dreaded 13 there, there's no way we're going to be able to simplify 13. So that's going to be our final answer. And what that reveals is the biggest number that went into 24 and 52 must have been 4. because 6 goes into 24 4 times, 13 goes into 52 4 times. So the highest common number there was 4. Question 4. Okay, so we've got a nice money question. £240 price, deposit £36, £15 a month for 12 months. So this bit here, I look at this bit straight away and I say, yeah, right, what they're wanting me to do there is 15 times 12. Now you can either do that using your box method or your long multiplication, or you can even say, well, if 10 times 15 would be 150, and 2 times 15 would be 30, then that means 12 times 15 has got to be 150 plus 30, which is 180. So that's quite a nice way to do it without a calculator. So £180 and a deposit of 36 makes £216. And then your payment plan, you're going to save 8% of that. Use our payment plan and save 8% of the normal price. Does using the payment plan save 8% of the normal price? Okay, so you got your deposit is £36 and then your other 180. So using that plan, you're going to be paying £216 and not 240. So the saving is the difference. So it's £24 saved using the payment plan. Is that a saving of 8%? Well, no, it isn't. Because if we did 240 divided by 24, that gives us 10. So the saving is 10%, not 8%. And then use estimation to check your calculation for the cost of the payment plan. So your key bit there, use estimation. So you've got to do some rounding. Don't be too precise here. To check your calculation for the cost of the payment plan. All right, so if we look at what the calculation was there, I mean, there's lots of calculations here, but certainly the 180 plus 36 equals 216 was a calculation that checked that calculated the cost of the payment plan. So if we use estimation, so for example, we could say, well, if 216 was about the same as 220, if we rounded that to 220, and if we rounded 36 to 40, then we could, for example, reverse this down here and we could say 220 minus 40 equals 180 as our estimated check. So all we're doing there is reversing this calculation, but rounding the numbers means that we are using estimation as they've requested for us to do. Okay, so it's just a very quick run through of this non-calculated paper, just so you can see that as long as you reasonably understand what you're reading and reasonably know your methods, there is no reason really why this paper can't be done comfortably inside of 25 minutes. As always, any questions, please just let me know.